everyone. We are going to get started here today. And as Bonnie said, I spent last spring during the COVID break that we had from school getting trained in strength training and speed development system called Bigger, Faster, Stronger. And anyway, it was great. And I'm excited to be able to do it and share it with you all today. It's something I've been interested in for a long time. And as you can see here, I'm just talking about why I was interested in this. So first of all, I'm interested because I was an athlete myself. And, I had a lot of different coaches telling me to lift this and lift that. And I did a lot of design of my own programming over the years. And some of it was good, but most of it was probably too much or overtraining, led to injury, wasn't that good. Could have been more efficient. I also had the opportunity to coach through my 20s at different universities and different divisions, and that was a lot of fun. So I had a lot of opportunity to try different things that way, and to roll out different programs and theories. And so that was pretty cool. And then mainly though, my interest right now is just as a teacher of people that are going to be teaching physical education, and they're going to be coaching in the public schools. So I have my own kids now. Bonnie just mentioned one is 14 and one is 12, and they've both started weight training too. And so during the COVID period, they were kind of my guinea pigs. So I was able to have them jump into this program, and we tried things out, and I was able to connect with the folks at Bigger, Faster, Stronger to get a lot of questions answered. So that was really helpful along the way. And what I learned is this is one of the few, if not only, weight training or total body conditioning programs that is available for not only sport, but physical education as well. So that's something that's really cool. A question I would ask if we had time would be to have you talk about your weight training experiences. When did you start strength training? When did you start plyometric jumps or agility ladders or things like that? We don't have time, so we're just going to keep zipping through this. Okay, so a huge part of Bigger, Faster, Stronger is this concept of unification. And it's not something that they're coming up with. It's just the idea of they've been in hundreds and hundreds of schools. Their program has been adopted, not only in the United States, but around the world. And something that they feel very strongly about, which is really interesting, is the idea that every athlete in the school, whether you're in physical education, you're a general student, or you are on the football team, or you're on the boys cross country team, whatever, you're all training doing the same types of lifts. So there are core lifts that are used to develop core body strength, power, speed, agility, those kinds of things. And then based upon that program, you are going to roll out specific lifts that will help individual athletes. So if you're a baseball pitcher, you're still going to do specific core activities, but you might do some other things, some auxiliary lifts that will support your arm development or something like that. So in the worst environment that a school could have, basically, each coach is responsible for their own strength training program. So you might have the football coach that rolls out a really advanced progressive program, and you might have the boys cross country coach that doesn't have a program for strength training at all, or if they do, it's just machine based, it's very minimal, right? So everybody is getting a different perspective. The skill set possessed by the students is different. It's all over the board. And we have coaches at odds with one another. So there's no philosophy that goes from one program to the next. This also pits athletes against each other, or it makes your loyalty vulnerable somewhat. So if you're on the girls hockey team and your coach is saying this, but then the track coach says, oh, you should only do this, but your hockey coach wants you to do that, there's problems that fall into place with that. So in order to get everybody on the same page, it's a nice idea to unify what you're doing, to have a philosophy and to have a specific agenda with your training. So anyway, something to think about. And the big thing here is it's not just sport we're talking about physical education as well. So this is a program that's been put into public schools. And you know that 70% of kids drop out of sport by age 12 or 13, which is problematic. But weight training and strength training is something our government recommends that all of us do every single week, not just cardiovascular, but strength train as well for a lifetime. So we want to train people to be strong to be flexible, those kinds of things.
Aaron,
Right.
I have a quick question. I don't know if we have time or if you want people to chat questions and then I'll field them, but
Sure.
I was just curious, or I just wanted to point out that philosophy, having a similar philosophy doesn't mean the same lifts, or is it the same lifts that they're using within the school and athletic programs?
We're using the same core lifts.
Okay.
So everybody is doing the same core lifts, such as bench press, parallel squat, and a dead clean or a deadlift or a power clean, something
And
like
are there schools in the local schools that are using this in Minnesota that you know of?
I'm sure there are.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure there are. I'm more familiar with Wisconsin. There's a ton of schools in Wisconsin that have rolled this out.
Okay.
And I
So
think
everybody else, if you have questions, pipe in the chat and I'll field those.
we'll have answer in the chat, everybody. If were you involved with Bigger, Faster, Stronger at some point in high school? Because you
And
might
then-
have been. I'm not sure.
And then maybe where your high school is too.
Yeah.
I'd be curious, just curious.
Yeah, I could actually email the folks at BFS and ask them who's using it in the state. Okay, so just in a nutshell, this is the program. There's a lot of information here, but let's just kind of jump through it. The program was developed in 1976, so it's been around for a good 40 years. It was based off of the training patterns of track and field throwers, who are often considered the most powerful athletes across all sport. So these were individuals, there was 3 guys that created this program back in the 70s, and they realized that it's not just about strength training or weight training. I should say weight training as opposed to strength, weight training. It's about speed development. So sprinting, some conditioning, but more about sprinting, plyometrics, agility, and flexibility. All of these things come together to develop speed, strength, power, and ultimately sport performance, with the hope of not being injured, right? Okay, also, they based all of this program off of the concept of general adaptation syndrome or periodization. So the idea is that the more stress that we put on the body, the more shock that we give a muscle, you either have to push through that or you don't. And if you do push through it and you're safe and you're using appropriate technique, you're going to grow muscle mass. You're going to build power and strength. If you don't push through that, you're not going to do those things, right? Or if you push through and you're doing it incorrectly, you could have an injury, or it could lead to burnout. It could lead to fatigue. It could lead to overuse. Okay. So this concept of the it's Hans Selye's general adaptation syndrome, and you've probably heard about it, but the whole idea is stressing the muscle and then giving yourself time to recover. Stress the muscle, time to recover. But we just can't do the same thing every day. We have to periodize our workouts, and that's the concept of periodization. So we manage fatigue of the athlete or of the student by changing it up every week, okay? So what they did was basically take those theories and apply them to a strength training program and a total body conditioning program for middle school, high school, college level, and even pro sports. So this program was first laid out really with the Utah Jazz, because this program is from Utah, but it's been all over the place and been used by all kinds of people. Okay, a couple other things. Personal records are a big part of this. All right. So every day you are recording what you're doing. You have a journal and you're recording what your lifts are and how much you did. And the goal isn't to break one record a month. The goal is to break one record probably every workout, right? So within a week, you should be breaking probably 8 records, they say, in a typical week. So, and that's across all of these different elements. So strength training, speed, plyometrics, agility, flexibility, whatever it is. Okay. Also, the concept is year-round training. So lifting in and out of season. All right. So when we are focusing on lifting weights, and you can all think about this now too, there are 6 absolutes of perfect technique. This is what they will tell us to use as cues as teachers. So if you're a teacher in the school or if you're coaching kids in the weight room, you want to have them focus on these 6 absolutes. And so one is eye on target. Have everybody stand up, would you? Everybody stand up quick. All right, so if you're standing up, put your chair so it's right behind you so you can actually sit and squat down into that chair. All right, so your eyes should be on a target. The target should be straight out in front of you, maybe a little bit above you, but your eyes don't necessarily want to be up at the ceiling. Like a lot of coaches will say, when you're squatting, look at the ceiling. Well, that's pretty hard to keep looking at the ceiling when you're in a deep squatted position. What happens is you shift your eyes, your head rolls down, you have a problem with your lower back, and that's how you injure your back. So everybody, as you are in this position, I'd like you to squat down, but keep your eyes on the target. So pick a target out straight in front of you, and let's see you squat a little bit. Awesome. Okay, so as you keep doing this, I want you to be tall. Pull your shoulders back. Spread your chest. Okay? Lock in your lower back, and that's usually by tilting your pelvis forward. All right, so we spread the chest, we tilt our pelvis, or we lock in our back. Stay tall, squat down, keep your eyes on the target. Go ahead. Keep squatting. All right. Now, as you're squatting down, take a look down at your toes. They're probably at a slight angle outwards. They shouldn't be way out, and they shouldn't be necessarily straight on. They should be at a slight angle outwards. And your knees should be over your toes when you're squatting down. Okay. The other thing to notice here is you're probably in an athletic stance. So your feet are about shoulder width apart. If you look down at your feet, they're about shoulder width apart. Okay, stop squatting. And now jump. Jump up into the air like a vertical jump. Just see what happens. Go ahead and jump. Boom. All right, get into it there a little bit. Jump as high as you can. See if you can hit your head on the ceiling. Awesome. Okay, now when you jump, before you jump, so go into the jump position and stop, and then look at your feet. How close are your feet together? There should be about 6 to 8 inches apart. All right. So the difference is we have an athletic stance or a jump stance in strength training and in all sport. The athletic stance is about shoulder width apart, like a squat, a power clean potentially. A jump stance is when you are close together, 6 to 8 inches apart, and your feet are close together, and that's where you're really generating a lot of power. Okay, you can sit down, everybody. So the 6 absolutes of perfect technique, it doesn't matter what you're doing. This could be lifting, it could be stretching, it could be agility, whatever. Eyes on the target, using an athletic or a jump stance. You are tall, meaning you have good posture. If you're out of posture, you're out of alignment, you're biomechanically out of alignment, you're going to lessen your performance in sport. This is big. Spread the chest, pull your shoulders back, lock in your lower back, and then aligning the knees and the toes. Let's see here. Uh-oh. What do I got here? Okay, here we go. All right, so what does the conditioning program look like? So the bigger, faster, stronger total conditioning program. Let's look at the strength training part or the weight training part. There's core lifts. I mentioned them before. There's a parallel squat and there's a box squat. There's a power clean and quick lifts. Quick lifts would be things like power snatch, push press, push jerk, clean and jerk. You're probably not going to get into all of that stuff, especially when you're first starting out, but we can work on power cleans, which is a great lift to get started with. I didn't even know what a power clean was until I went to college. I never even saw it. I can't even imagine how much better I would have been had I grown up with a power clean. I guess I should be thankful I grew up on a farm and did a lot of baling of hay, throwing a lot of bales, because it's basically the same thing. All right, Hex-Bar deadlift or a straight leg deadlift. So deadlifts obviously are part of this. Bench press and then bench press variations and sport-specific auxiliary lifts. All right, take a look at this, everyone. This is my son, little Jake Perry. He is 12. He's trying to do a squat here. This is just the other night. Now you notice he's squatting down. His eyes are on the target. His back, shoulders are back. His back is straight. He's in a good position. His knees are aligned over his toes. They're not shooting way out in front, but he's not at parallel. I'd like him to be a little bit deeper there, but he's doing a really good job for being 12 years old. Also notice the bar that he's lifting with is 15 pounds. It's a youth bar. It's a very small bar, but it looks just like an adult bar. It's totally sweet. All right, now check him out over here. This is a squat box.
Good.
Okay, check out the box. He sits, he rocks back, he goes forward, and he shoots up in a powerful position, up onto his toes even. So he's strengthening his ankles, strengthening his calves as well. What's nice about the squat box is it's controlled, it's safe, and it allows you to squat twice in a week as opposed to just doing full parallel squats twice in a week. That's very exhausting, takes a lot out of an athlete. So something to keep in mind here is squatting is very important, but we got to get to parallel. How do we get to parallel? It's a hard concept to teach to young people. So use a squat box. That's an awesome way to get us to squat. And I basically had you use a squat box by sitting on your chair. Uh-oh. Okay, let's check out the next lift, bench press. So this is Luke. He just turned 14. And he's just rifling through these. He's going way too fast. I was crabbing at him about him to slow down, but it's the best I could get on short notice. So here he is. Feet are flat on the floor. Eyes are on a fixed target, right? Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Back is flat on the floor. Full motion all the way down to your chest, all the way back up. If you look over to the other concept, this is the towel bench. So again, in a week, I would like my athlete to bench press fully, right? All live on the floor. But then I also want him to bench again. He's going to come back and do it again. But this time we're going to use.
We are doing it now with a towel bench.
Okay, we're going to use this bench block, or you could use a towel. You wad it up and you throw it down here on their chest. Okay. And what it does is it creates about 5 inches of separation between the chest, takes a lot of pressure off of the joints. And when you're trying to get stronger, like you're doing 2 sets of 10 or something, you can do more weight with the bench block, which is really nice. So you can lighten the weight on the full press, and then you can add a little bit more weight with the bench block, and they can push themselves through a plateau easier. It's a pretty cool thing.
All right, we are doing
son of a
with
gun.
a towel. All right. We are doing it now with.
There we go. All right. Moving into the power clean. All right. So our next lifts, we just covered bench press. We covered squats, parallel squats. Now let's get into power cleans. What do these look like? This is an awesome picture of this young lady. You can tell she's a power lifter, doing really well. She actually has powerlifting shoes on, indicated by those nice flat soled shoes, and they're probably a solid wood or very hard substance that she's landing on there. She's in great form. Her eyes are on a target. Her posture is up. You can see her back isn't rounded. She's got a pelvis tilt, which is perfect. She looks great. Her knees are over her toes. That's pretty intense right there. Most of us don't look like that. But there is a way to teach power cleaning. How many of you, and Bonnie, look in the chat, tell Bonnie if you feel like you're really good at power cleaning, or tell her if you feel like you could improve. Just kind of want to get a sense of what people feel like with their power cleans. And you may not know how to power clean at all, and that's okay. I think if I was going to teach anything about weightlifting to anyone, even in PE class, this is the lift. It's a full body lift. It engages the lower body, the upper body, and the core. It's an awesome lift. What do we got, Bonnie?
We got nothing. Well, here we go. Never really got into power cleans, need improvement, haven't done them since high school, so definitely could use some work. Been in high school, but could improve, could be better. Sounds like their proficiency is pretty low.
Okay, awesome. So it's one of the hardest lifts to learn, and it's one of the hardest ones to teach, but I've broken it down based on some feedback I got from the owner of Bigger, Faster, Stronger, because he has kids about my age. And so it's really helpful talking with him, but then also just doing it with my own kids. So I have this 4-step approach to teaching the power clean. First, you're going to pull from the floor. First, you're going to pull from the floor just to the knees. Okay, and you're going to get proficient at that. You're going to get used to that. Second, you're going to pull from the floor to a jump shrug. Third, you're going to pull from the floor all the way to the chin with the bar. And then finally, you're going to catch the bar when you're in that position. All right, I'm going to come back to that previous slide, but check this out. This is Jake Perry again. He's maybe 10 at this time. I just started him last spring doing this. And these are, he probably spent a month before I let him actually catch, like go to phase 4. So here he is. He's just pulling to the floor, pulling to his knees from the floor. Okay, that's all that was. See that again. He's trying to keep his eyes up, keep his back flat, his chest back. All right, so he's just pulling. Now I'd like to see him in here have that bar against his shins. It's called feel the steel. Here's the next phase. Now he's jumping. It's a jump shrug. So he should pull his shoulders up and he should actually leave the floor. He should explode off the floor.
Feel the steel.
Nice. Okay. Now here's the next phase. He's going to pull it to his chin.
Nice. Straight up. Here we go.
So he comes off the floor.
Feel the steel. Go.
Straight up.
Good.
Elbows to the sky.
Beauty. Straight up. Yeah. One more. Beautiful. Down.
All right. And this bar that we're using is 15 pounds. So it's light. And I actually started him with just a PVC pipe that was like 2 pounds, you know? So we progressed up to this point in about a month. He's got trainers on the side, which are just plastic plates that don't weigh anything. And he's got maybe a 2.5 pound weight on each side. So he's probably sitting at about 20 pounds right here. And he probably weighs about 70 pounds. All right, now this is his very first attempt at power cleaning. So phase 4. So we just saw pull from the floor to the knees, pull from the floor to a jump shrug. So you shrug your shoulders, but you keep your elbows straight and you jump off the floor. Pull from the floor to the chin, elbows to the ceiling, and pull from the floor to a catch position, which is the full power clean. Let's see how he does.
Feel the steel. And straight up, hold to the ceiling and catch. Good, get it on your chest.
Okay, now you saw he shot that thing right up through the roof almost, which is good.
Okay.
Now watch him refine this.
Straight up. Good, better. Yeah, way better.
Nice.
Let's try that again. Good. Good job, dude. 2 more.
So he's essentially trying to put everything together.
Nice. That was a good one right there.
The one thing I'd like to see him do, so you can see he's refining it very quickly. I'd like to see him bend his knees a little bit right there, right at the end.
Go.
All right, but you can see if a 10-year-old can do this in a month, anyone can do this. And you can all be taught to do this. You just have to take time, break it down, and you have to totally be on top of the athlete or the student, right? You have to observe it. You have to give feedback. You can't just let them do it if it's wrong, right?
I like the way you're giving him cues, and it sounds like a lot of those are built into the program. You know, elbows to the sky and making connections with cues.
Yeah.
That'll be so important for, you know, lesson planning and coaching planning to have those cues just lined up so they can focus.
Right. And I'm trying to reiterate the 6 absolutes that they talked about, right? So I talked about those earlier. Eye on a target, straight back, pull your shoulders back, right? Knees over toes, align your toes, jump stance or athletic stance. Okay, this is going to be a jump stance. This is Hex-Bar deadlift. You can take a look over here. This is Jake. He's using a 15-pound bar. It's a little tiny Hex-Bar. It's just a minuscule thing. It's totally cool for little kids. And as he's doing this, I'm having him shrug at the top because we might as well kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So check out his back, check out his butt, look at the parallel legs. He's practicing squatting form again, essentially. That's great stuff. Now look at Luke over here. He's going to do the straight leg deadlift. And if you can you see my cursor, Bonnie? Okay,
Yeah.
if you can see this bar behind him, that is a full-sized Hex-Bar. That's an adult-size Hex-Bar. That thing's like 60 pounds. It's a beast, and it's what Luke would use. Totally sweet. Okay, but what he's going to do is a straight leg deadlift.
Straight leg deadlift. Go.
And it's light. And what we're trying to do is work on flexibility and strengthening of the hamstrings. Hamstrings are really important with speed development and power. So you can never overtrain your hamstrings if we're thinking about it that way. All right, so this is an auxiliary lift that I would add at least once, if not twice, into a week with kids. Okay, and then we come to the end of this program, which is sport-specific auxiliary lifts. So I just put up some examples of auxiliary lifts. For a lower body, you might have done leg curls, leg extension, leg press, dumbbells, straight leg deadlift, right? This right here, everyone claims in the research base is the key to developing serious speed and power, glute ham raises. If you're not sure what it is, look it up, glute ham raise. If you have a bad back, it's supposed to be a cure for that too. Upper body. All right, we've got dips, incline bench press. You might want to add that in depending on your sport. Lat pull down, neck exercises. Maybe you're a wrestler or a football player. It's important to have a strong neck. Shoulder press. We haven't even talked about curls or any of that stuff, and then full body, we could have other things that are auxiliary lifts.
So Aaron, do they break it down by sport? Like you could go to your sport and say, okay, these are the auxiliary lifts for this sport?
Yep, and that's the question right now. So let's pick someone. Pick anybody in the room, Bonnie.
I'm going to pick on Cam.
All right, Cam, turn your mic on. What do you want to coach in the future, Cam?
Football, probably.
Okay, so football, like every other sport, if I'm teaching golf or whatever, I'm going to make them do power cleans, parallel squats, bench press, deadlifts, and then I'm going to add some sport-specific auxiliary lifts. No more than 5 lifts a week should be included that are auxiliary. These do not take the focus away from the core lifts. The core lifts are the king. That's what you focus on. But if you're in the weight room 3 times a week, maybe you let the athlete choose 1 or 2 auxiliaries they would like to do. So as a football coach, what are important muscles or additional lifts you would want the students to perform?
I think neck would be a important one, as well as probably like hamstring, the glute ham raise probably.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So you could add in glute ham raise, you could add in straight leg deadlift, and then for the neck, you could do some neck exercises. There's neck machines or different ways to work that. So Cam would add those things into his football program. Now, if I was a baseball coach, I might have my athlete be working more on flexibility or strengthening of their rotator cuffs or something like that, right? But still, all power comes from the core. If you don't have a powerful core, it's not going to connect the upper and lower body, and you're not going to be as efficient in your movement and as powerful in your performance. All right, do we want to keep going, Bonnie, or do you get the gist?
I think we get the gist of this.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, if you're a hockey coach or something, you're going to be thinking about adductors and abductors, right? For skating, that would be really important. All right, let's keep moving though. So we just looked at weight training conditioning. For the total body conditioning, we looked at the weight training component. Now we have to consider, all right, there's other aspects of this. There's plyometrics, agility, speed, and flexibility. So plyometrics, there's different ways that we can incorporate plyometrics. Basically, it's the contraction and explosion of a muscle as fast as you can. You want the athlete to be on the ground for the least amount of time, and you want them to go all out when they explode to perform these activities. So, rope jumping is something that people will often use as a warm-up activity. Remember that ankles are the foundation of the body. So strengthening your ankles, like when I had Jake doing the Hex-Bar deadlift and going up into a calf raise, he's strengthening his ankles. Once you have an ankle injury, you're 5 times more likely to re-injure your ankle. And there's something like 11 million ankle injuries a year that are visited to doctors' offices from sport. So it's a huge issue. All right. Vertical jumps, standing long jumps, plyometric box jumps, and bounding drills are all part of plyometrics. And again, we don't have a ton of time today to go through this, so I didn't put videos in, but someday I'd like to come back and add that kind of aspect. But Bonnie, you can basically see we could do like a 2-week unit just on this, where we focus on lifting, we focus on, writing something specific for a sport, then we focus on plyometrics. Then we're getting into agility drills. Okay, so getting the body to move from point A to point B, but be able to change direction efficiently as well. This is an awesome video. This is actually, let's see if it's not coming up. Okay, this is actually the owner of Bigger, Faster, Stronger with his daughter right now. And if you want to search for this on YouTube, you can. Just search the BFS 5-dot drill. You'll notice the girl's feet are here. Okay, so that's the first 2 dots, and then there's a middle dot, and then there's 2 dots. And she's just going to go forward and backward, forward and backward. She's going to go double feet, single feet. She'll turn around. It's a great warm-up activity, and students will typically, and you can see how they have dots all over the place. So if you're in a PE class or in a gym setting, or a practice, you could have these spray painted down, and you could have 20 people doing the dot drill right away at the beginning of practice. It's a warm-up activity. It gets you going. It strengthens the ankles, but it's also about agility and turning and foot speed. Okay, also, we want to think about agility drills, and these are really fun. Basically, you take cones and you set these cones out, right? Anywhere between 5 and 15 yards. So a football field is ideal to put these on. And it always stays in this format, but there's all kinds of different drills that people can do. So we could, for example, this is sprint, 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 sprint. So it's all sprinting. It could be side slide with the left as the lead, sprint, side slide with the right as the lead, sprint, backward pedal, or something like that. The athlete goes through it. They do it 3 different times. It's timed and recorded all the time as well to check on their speed development. Bigger, Faster, Stronger has a document with 25 different agility drills. And if anybody is interested in this, just let me know and I can share a lot of information, because I've got a lot of the products that they have. All right, speed and conditioning, 10 ways to improve speed. So we won't talk too much about this, but in this program, they have you sprinting twice a week. So working on sprint technique and form. And the idea is not to go out and sprint 100 yards or 200 yards, because in most sport, you don't tend to sprint 100 yards at a time. You tend to sprint like 2 yards to 20 yards. So the sprints are going to take place anywhere between 10 and 50 yards. And you're going to time the sprints. It's going to be year round. Some different things you can do. Analyze the video. That's really helpful. Bring a track coach or somebody in to help the athletes understand their form. Also, that's really helpful. And then getting back into some of the lifts and the plyos are important too. All right, continuing on. Flexibility is another part of this program. They have a 10-minute flexibility program, which is actually really effective. It's great. I've got a great PDF of this if anyone wants to see it. So I just pulled these off of the PDF. But basically, it's a 1 minute. Every stretch is held for a minute. So 1 minute on a bench, 2 minutes standing, 3 minutes against a wall, 4 minutes on the floor, and then you finish off with a hip flexor stretch. So it's essentially a 10-minute stretching program. And the idea is that flexibility should be added to every single workout. Every day you should be stretching. And it's often the most overlooked part of someone's training. And you all know that. You probably don't really enjoy stretching, or you just kind of go through the motions when you're doing it, or you just skip out because you got other stuff you got to get to. But flexibility is a huge part of strength and speed development. The more flexible your hamstrings are, the faster you're going to run, and the less likely you are going to be able to have an injury. Okay, so how do we put all this stuff together? We've looked at weight training, plyometrics, agility, all that stuff. Okay, well, again, remember I was talking about Bigger, Faster, Stronger recommends year-round training, which makes sense for all of us. We all should be, moving most of the year. But Monday, Wednesday, Friday, when we're out of season, we're going to focus on weight training and flexibility. Tuesday and Thursday, again, notice we're going to be doing flexibility, but now we're going to do sprints, maybe some conditioning, plyometrics, agility, and then again, flexibility. So flexibility 5 days a week, strength 3 days a week, and sprints, plyometrics, agility the other 2 days. When we're in season, the big question is, you got to ask yourself and you got to ask your athletes, do you want to be strongest at the beginning of the season, or do you want to be strong into the playoffs? And obviously you're going to say, I want to be strong into the playoffs. But if you're a real athlete and you've actually trained year round or through a season, you'll know how hard it is to stay strong through an entire season. So I was a track athlete in college, a thrower, and I was always really strong at the beginning of the season. And the season is indoors and outdoors, and it goes for 5 or 6 months often. It's hard to keep your power base that entire time. So if you stop lifting, you're going to be weak as you go through your season. You're not going to have the peak performance that you want to have. So recommendations are, you should be lifting twice a week during season. Ideally, it happens in the morning. There's not a lot of good data to support lifting or after practice or right before practice, because it takes away potentially from your technique or the practice. So give your athletes some time to recover and recuperate and move forward. Notice the focus is on the core lifts. There might be some auxiliary lifts here, but not many. It's just primarily focused on the core lifts. All right, as you can see in what we just went through. 2 days a week. Okay, moving forward. What does the set rep system look like? Well, I've laid it out here for you for off season and in season. So remember, this is all about progression, and this is all about general adaptation syndrome. So we want to start simple and progress and periodize so that we have the best effect that we can have. So notice in season or off season, we have 3x3. So it's 3 sets, 3 reps each. Week 2, 5 sets, 5 reps each. And then it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So you can notice how it's getting harder. And then week 4, we come back with a 10, 8, 6. So it's easier. It's probably in week 3, the athlete reached exhaustion of the muscle. So this is a chance for the body to recuperate and rebuild. In season, very similar, but you can notice it's less. It's 3x3, 3x5, 5, 3, 1, 10, 8, 6. So it's not quite as engaging, but it's still there. You're still trying to maintain that level of strength. And again, you don't do the same thing every week. You do the same thing every month, though. Okay, you keep building on it. Okay, so record keeping is a big part of this. You'll notice up here in the box squat, right? So for the box squat, which I had Jake doing the other day, he's going to write down what he did, how much he did. So this is week 1, 3x3, week 2, 5x5, week 3, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So he'll write down every time what he lifted. How much did he do for 5? How much did he do for 4? How much did he do for 3? When he breaks a record, there's a section where he records his new record for that day too, or for his life performance there. So this is how it's all kept track of, and they sell this, but they also have an app version which you can download, which is slick. If you have, students with phones, or if you have like iPads in the gymnasium or something that they could use. Okay, and then here's just an example of a program, what it might look like. So here's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right? You're going to start off with a dot drill. You go to parallel squat, bench press, auxiliary lifts, flexibility. Thursday, again, it's going to look a little different. Dot drill, sprint work, plyometrics, flexibility, sprint technique. Okay, moving on. How do we create a culture? So when do we start weight training? Well, I've got a ton of information again on this. But basically, the Mayo Clinic, and this is as recent as June 20th, 2020, is recommending students and children can participate in strength training as early as ages 7 to 8. Okay, so it's kind of up to the child how much they want to get into this, but the goal is it's not about building muscle mass or power or those kinds of things. It's just about flexibility, technique, and just being strong in your own body, right? There's a lot of myths about strength training is going to damage your growth plates in your bones. It's going to stunt your growth. It's going to make you inflexible. There's all these fairy tales that still exist from the last 60 years. And we know that strength training is a great activity. It's something that we should be doing at least 2 times a week, or at least 3 times a week, according to this right here, the Health and Human Services. But there's no data to suggest that you're going to harm the child or harm the young athlete by starting early. was actually watching This Is Us last night, and the mom, like the kid came home from junior high football practice, and the dad was all pumped up, and he's like, yeah, let's go out to the garage and lift some weights. And the mom was saying, hey, isn't this going to hurt his body? And it's just those myths that continue on. You see it all the time. But no, it's not going to hurt as long as it's done correctly and safely. And just use body weight. You don't need to use weights, just use the student's body weight, which is what they recommend. So when do we start this? Well, Bigger, Faster, Stronger has this set rep program, which we just went through. And that's for high school students or students that are at a level where they actually have skills developed and they have some strength to be able to build the muscle mass, build the power. But when you're first starting out, we want to go like my little Jake there, start out with a wooden dowel or a PVC pipe and just start out with no weight and technique and performance and build it up and make it really positive. Notice the sets are 2x10s. They're not 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're not building strength or mass. We're just building technique at this time. Also, twice per week. That's it. 45 minutes tops. You don't want to burn people out, make it boring. You want this to be fun, right? So they actually have something called the Readiness program that they will start out in middle school with students. So starting about 7th grade, students could join the Bigger, Faster, Stronger, or you could roll out this program. And how do you know when the athlete or the student is ready to move into that set rep cycle? So the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, the 3 3s, 5 5s to actually start gaining muscle mass. Well, for boys and girls, there's some different criteria. So boys, they should be able to squat 2 sets of 10 at 145 pounds, 2 parallel, perfect technique. If they can't do that, they're not ready to move into the other program. Girls, it's 105 pounds. Bench press, 2 sets of 10 at 105 pounds or 90% of your body weight. So if you have a kid that's, a different body weight, you can adjust that accordingly. Okay, and then power cleans, 2 sets of 5 for 105 pounds. Or for girls, it's 75 pounds for bench and power cleans. Okay, I think we're wrapping it up, Bonnie. All right, I'm going to get out of this. And take any questions that people have. I think we're just about on time. It's nice. We still have a few questions or a few times here.
Yeah, and I'll keep an eye on the chat. But that was awesome, and I think it was really timely because our psychomotor specific teaching sessions start on Monday, and that was a great example because Dr. Banks got us up and moving. You can focus on getting us up and moving and doing things, but also explaining or addressing technique, which was one of the PE standards as far as motor skill development. I really like too that this is a lifelong sport and a lifelong activity. I was thinking and personalizing to myself, and now more than ever in my life, I see the need, and I was an athlete as well, but I see the need for weight training more than ever. All of my injuries are related to weaknesses in different areas of my body. So, and I think there's a big gap in the senior population. So for those of you who are going to more well-being coaching, things like that, and you're going to be working with senior population, I think this is pertinent to that and very, I like that unification and I like using that. And that means not only the district, but extending beyond that into lifelong. So a couple questions I have, Aaron, is what does it take to get trained and how much does it cost? How much is it going to set you back, your school, your district, or yourself if you're offering up a program?
Well, the closest trainings are probably going to happen in Wisconsin. And I think if you go in person, I think it's about $400 for the registration. Then you're probably going to have a hotel because I think it's a couple days. But because of COVID, they shifted everything online. So there's like a 20 to 40 hour training that you have to go through online, and it's maybe $250. So it's less expensive. But if it's something we ever wanted to add to our program, which I think would be really cool, we could build it right into the cost of a class. And I think they will do it for much less if it's students,
Yeah, that would be really cool, I think. And it might be something if you're out there coaching or teaching that you could get your district to pay for.
I think liability wise, it's really important that when you're teaching strength training in public schools as a PE teacher, or if you're working in a coaching setting, that you are able to say, I am teaching appropriate technique and I'm using a program that is founded in scientific principles. It's not just something that I'm doing that my coach did for me 28 years ago, which is what everybody typically does, right? Most people just assume, oh, I know so much about weight training. Well, actually, you really don't, but other people do. So let's get out there and use the resources and not reinvent the wheel. This is an awesome program. It's straightforward. It's easy to use. And it's very focused on the individual, right? And I think the best thing about it is it builds culture. So for example, I don't think there's a really great sport culture in St. Peter because my kids are in the throes of it right now. Right? I think there could be a much better culture. So if I was a varsity coach of some kind of sport, I'd be pushing for this. I would come in and say, I want to develop youth that are going to be my feeder program into my varsity level sport. And we're going to kick butt. And how are we going to do it? Well, it's going to start with this. We're all doing the same thing. It's the same philosophy. We're all buying into it. Right? So all the coaches at a younger level should be involved as well.
Yeah, some great points. And I think just getting trained in this is going to make you more confident as well. Great thing to have on your resume. So I would say, I know we're out of time, but I would say I'm going to take the recording of this class today and I'll put it on Moodle so you can access it, revisit it. And then, I would say use Aaron or through me as a resource if you want to get more information and really dive deeper. I think whether you go through training or not, I'm sure, Aaron, you're willing to share some of your resources. Sure. Maybe help if somebody's interested in doing something in the off season and themselves, maybe even helping give them some exercises and tailoring it to your own specific program just to see what it's all about.
It's a great program. I really like it. I've known about it forever. And I always thought, it's kind of stupid. It's this general program. But the more I've learned and the more I've seen, I really like it. I think it's fantastic. I like how they lay it out for physical education in the schools and have you working in groups with people. It's pretty slick. Mm-hmm.
And Aaron's not getting any money for saying this. He just is really bought into it. So I'm excited. I think I'm going to try to go through training. I really like too that, you could use it for people with disabilities. It's everybody in the district. And you could see modifications with towels and chairs and just using body weight. So it truly is meets the unification standards. So I love that.
Yeah. And it for injured athletes or injured students, they'll always use the Readiness program. They go back to that Readiness program and you have to be able to test at a certain level before you can go back.
Right.
Pushing yourself, which is pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, so if anyone has any questions, they want to stay on, I'm happy to stay on. Otherwise, if you want some information, I've got a lot of articles and things because I've read a lot about this too, just to see, is this legit or is this a good thing? And I found some really good stuff. So yeah, if you want help with anything, let me know.